If you've completed Fallout New Vegas for the 100th time, you're gonna want to freshen up your experience with new modded content for your next playthrough. Unfortunately, the majority of mods add in content that oftentimes feels out of place and doesn't quite fit in the vanilla game, whether it be companions, weapons, or armor. So in this video, I'm gonna show you over a dozen mods of top-notch quality, weapons of aesthetic cohesiveness, companions voiced by professionals,
hell yeah! I'm all in!
And so much more. All of the content fits seamlessly within New Vegas. Gentlemen, welcome back to Modders Got Talent, and without further ado, let's start the show. In this episode, I'm joined by a man that shows the utmost of professionalism when it comes to crafting mods.
Hello everyone, MC Tammer here, extremely honored and excited to be taking part in the Modders Got Talent series. I'm going to be giving you some commentary on a selection of my work that Mutant Mods has chosen to showcase, as well as doing a Q&A session at the end where I talk shit about various people, so you're not going to want to miss that.
Have you ever thought to yourself, man, New Vegas sure is lacking in the weapons department?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
No? Well, here's a mod that adds over 200 brand new instruments of destruction anyway. Because we all know that more gun equals more fun. Murder. It equals more murder. Which is fun. Tammer's NIF-Bashed weapons mega pack consists of 200 weapons in a single file that amounts to only double-digit megabytes in size. How? Well, MC Tammer's philosophy for modding is to utilize as little outside resources as possible and to mainly use in-game assets. With this approach, all his creations would have a lore-friendly aesthetic. Tammer also shows the same level of care when it comes to implementing his creations into the game. The weapons were all injected into the appropriate leveled lists via script. There are optional vendors that'll have all the new guns in stock as well, one of which is Vlad. He's been fully voiced by MC Tammer himself.
I am Vlad. I sell guns.
And he's got something to say about all the firearms in the pack.
Is hold 6 grenade in a revolving drum, like cowboy guns from hell.
Right outside by the door, there's an ammo vending machine, and within the shop there'll also be a firing range for you to test out your latest purchases. Some are inspired by real-life pieces, and some others are completely unique ideas. Here are the ones that caught my eye. The Personal Defense Carbine is your best choice if you have an excess of 5mm rounds.
Anyone who isn't familiar with firearms might be surprised to learn that this is based on a real gun, the AR-57. It's a module that can be attached to any AR-15 rifle to convert it to fire the 5.7 by 28mm cartridge using the magazine from a P90 submachine gun.
While Tammer doesn't include animations for the weapons himself, you can still use the FNV clean animations, which will work very well for this SMG. The mini machine pistol is a .45 ACP bullet hose that shreds anything at the other end of the barrel, death claws included.
I love cheesy 80s action movies, and no gun screams cheesy 80s action more than the stamped sheet metal machine pistol. Whether it's an Uzi or a MAC-10, they were everywhere in movies back in the 80s, and it was radical.
Careful where you aim this thing, it has quite the kickback if you're using a recoil mod. The compact polymer carbine is inspired by the H&K G36C in the real world. Growing up, this was my favorite assault rifle to use in Call of Duty 4.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuke.
Tactical nuke incoming!
I think it fits just right in Fallout, but I could be blinded by nostalgia. The Trench Raid machine gun is what you'd get when the Lewis LMG breeds the Fallout 4 assault rifle. The shock knuckles are just like the brass knuckles, but instead of going pow, they go. The rocket-propelled chainsaw is exactly what it sounds like, and it's brilliant.
Old memes are usually pretty cringeworthy, but in this case, I just wanted to see if I could make it work in the game like it does in the meme.
The Quantum Displacer is a sci-fi grappling hook of sorts that'll allow you to access areas you couldn't before, like rooftops and billboards.
This is basically just a ripoff of the Blink ability from the Dishonored series. Hands down, the coolest ability and the one I always end up using the most.
Oh, and you can also telefrag NPCs with this thing. The Singularity Cannon spits out a black hole that swallows anything that comes near it.
The Saints Row series prior to the reboot is one of my favorites, and I think it was Saints Row 4 that had a similar black hole launcher.
You can acquire it and other sci-fi weapons from Dr. Quarton's vendor.
If you must know, my name is Quartin. Dr. Quartin. I'm a scientist, not a sellout. You think I would turn over my life's work for a measly handful of caps?
The shrink ray reduces an NPC's size with each consecutive hit.
Oh, it's on now. Oh, it's on now. Oh, it's on now. Oh, it's on now.
The shrink ray is a staple of science fiction, and even just the idea of it evokes the retro 50s sci-fi feel that Fallout is best known for.
The doppelganger grenade projects a holographic decoy to distract your target.
You'll think this is the real Quaid. It is.
The psychic pistol is a gun that you can only acquire if you have Wild Wasteland as a trait.
It might surprise you to learn that despite my modding hobby, I'm not actually very good at video games, and I don't consider myself a gamer. When I first got into 3D Fallout, I was really frustrated by having my stuff taken away all the time.
I'm gonna have to ask you to hand over any weapons you might be carrying.
And I thought, man, if I could just shoot people with a finger gun, that would be a lot easier. Fast forward a few years, and I managed to make it a reality.
The Gobclogger.
This mod was inspired by a thought I had about what would happen if you loaded a plunger into a compressed air spear gun.
What in the goddamn?
The Piranha Acid Launcher.
This mod was inspired by the film Mars Attacks, where the Martian guns would disintegrate people, leaving behind only a skeleton. I came up with the effect first, then designed a weapon around it, and I like how it kinda looks like a Super Soaker.
The Ghetto Blaster fires disco.
The Saints Row series had the dubstep gun, but dubstep as a genre had a very short shelf life. It went from being the cool new thing to punchline to annoying really quickly. Disco, on the other hand, has been corny and silly ever since it emerged.
This weapon forces NPCs within the vicinity to dance and collapse with exhaustion.
That person would always try to one-up other people's stories.
The Emotional Support Weapon is a great showcase of MC Tammer's sense of humor and creativity.
That person never covered their mouth when coughing or sneezing.
This gun consoles you by explaining why each target you take down deserves to die.
That person would often ask to speak to the manager.
I really like wordplay, and I made myself chuckle by combining the idea of an emotional support animal with a light support weapon. Then I started to think about what that would actually mean if it were a real thing, and this gun is the result.
This one is hilarious, and it reminds me a lot of how the Stealth Suit Mark II from Old World Blues works.
Starting combat. Just kidding.
The Rocket Fist wasn't released by Tammer, but I thought it was way too cool for me to look past it.
I think giant fighting robots are really cool, and one of the staple weapons of the genre is the Flying Rocket Punch. Unfortunately, this plugin causes my game to crash to desktop for some reason, so until I can figure out why, this mod has never been released.
It does exactly what its name suggests. And finally, the Swarm is a mine that crawls up to your target like a spider and blows up in their face.
I am Reginald Fordham Smythe. Welcome to Capital Onwards.
The mod also comes with a vendor for the Capital Wasteland in case you're using TTW. After the showcase, I know what you're thinking. Tammer is a genius weaponsmith. However, not only is he good at making weapon mods, but he's also got an artistic eye when it comes to outfits. In a world of emergent-breaking armor mods and sexy farts...
Ew! Dude! What the f***?
Tammer's NIF-Bashed Armor Mega Pack provides us with 46 outfits and 25 accessories that are all lore-friendly. Some were added to appropriate leveled lists, while others are only obtainable by installing the optional vendors.
Well now, I reckon I'd know a badass when I see one, and hell if I ain't looking at one right now.
Let's take a closer look at some of these armors. The Vault Boy Mascot Mask. Tammer stated, there is no way a company like Vault-Tec wouldn't employ actors to dress up as their most popular character to attend publicity events. And I agree. This also reminds me of players being able to put on the Spacer's Choice mascot mask in the Outer Worlds. The Death Angel Power Armor is aesthetically close to the Warhammer 40k power armors, but still seemingly fits within Fallout New Vegas.
I've never played Warhammer, and frankly I think heroin would be a cheaper hobby in the long run, but I always found the design of the various Space Marine armors kind of cool. So that's the look I was going for here. The name is also the most grimdark one I could think of.
The Star Trooper armor.
Fallout, Deus Ex, and Mass Effect form the big three of my all-time favorite video game franchises. Knowing that, it shouldn't be too hard to spot the influence of the latter on this armor. But just between you and me, this armor owes more to Andromeda than it does to the original trilogy.
The Ronin armor.
I only buy games that have been discounted to $10 or less on Steam or GOG, so I still haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 yet, but the Johnny Silverhand outfit from the trailer looked really cool, so I decided to try and recreate it.
The Heartbreaker outfit.
Usually when I make an armor, I'll start with the male version first and then recreate it using the female parts. This outfit was the opposite. The female version was inspired by the outfit worn by Mila Jovovich's character in the first Resident Evil movie, and serves as an excellent example of one of my cool outfits from Mediocre Movies series of armors.
The hazard suit will protect you from radiation, and its design was inspired by the space suit from Doctor Who. If you want to be able to purchase them, most of the armors will be sold by Roxy at Existential Thread in Freeside.
Look no further. You made it to Existential Thread.
You can also grab them from a new vendor called Dudley at DC Duds in the Capital Wasteland if you have TTW installed. Is hardcore mode too easy for you? Do you wish for a greater purpose or meaning to your wasteland existence? If you answered yes to both of these questions, then I've got just what you need. A Tribe of Two is a very unique companion mod that lets you take a baby girl under your wing. You'll have to make sure she stays safe and fed, in addition to managing your own needs as well. If you're using Tale of Two Wastelands, upon traveling from the capital to the Mojave, she'll grow up and turn into a companion because the events of Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 are 4 years apart. You can find the infant child at a raider camp near Dukov's place. As you approach the camp and fight off the human scum, you'll actually be able to hear the baby cry.
Oh, you're gonna pay for that.
Which made the situation more dramatic. When the smoke clears, you'll have 3 options regarding what to do with the baby. Walk away, put her out of her misery, eat her, or take her with you. Upon kidnapping the baby, she'll begin to cry, non-stop.
Shut up!
How do we fix this? Put her out of her misery. You either feed it, sing to it, or tend to her needs in general using an item called the Baby Status Checker, which will be placed in your weapons inventory upon picking her up. Some of the new items like baby food and Brahmin milk can be bought off vendors, but certain items like the baby earplugs and radiation suit must be crafted by the player. Oh, and you can now milk Brahmin to feed the baby. You can breastfeed the baby if you're playing a female character as well. That's attention to detail right there. If you happen to find yourself to be an irresponsible parent, you could also hand the baby over to a companion. But if you can handle taking care of her, this will add so much more purpose behind every encounter in the game. Heading over to the Super Duper Mart for some quick loot, sneaking will be a difficult approach because if the baby starts crying, the raiders will be able to hear it and detect you. You'll feel the pressure and responsibility of having to protect the child. You're no longer just fighting to survive, you're also fighting to help create a better future for your baby.
I was inspired to make this mod after watching the first season of The Mandalorian, and I called it a Tribe of Two because its initials spell Tot, which is another word for a small child. I really like wordplay.
Unfortunately, Scout doesn't come with any voice acting, but Jessica does.
I don't think I've seen you around here before.
The making of Jessica was the first time I ever had to find someone to voice a character in my mods. Up until this point, I'd always done it myself, but obviously in this case that wasn't realistic. I was extremely lucky to find a wonderful actress named Julianne Meany, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the mod would not be what it is without her.
Jessica is different from other companions for New Vegas, but you can say that about all of Tammer's companion mods because they all use the Customizable Companions framework. This framework allows companions to level up, enhancing their skills and gaining perks in the process. And it's up to you to decide what areas you'd like your companion to improve upon. You can get them strong enough to kick down doors for you, increase their agility to make them faster and more efficient during combat, teach them how to repair your equipment for you.
If you ever need something put together or taken apart, I'm your girl.
And with a higher barter skill, they will grant you a 10% discount when trading. Those were only some examples of the customizable aspects of Tammer's companions. Let's get back to Jessica.
What's up?
From your brief conversation with her, you learned that she's a funny and adventurous person.
No, I won this from a guy who had such rotten luck that he literally lost the shirt off his back.
But she spent her entire life living in the vault. Convincing her to roam the desert wasteland with you might prove difficult.
Hell yeah, I'm all in. Dibs on all the best loot.
Loot goblin. For someone who hasn't been out in the wastes before, you'd think she'd be terrified.
Tag, you're it. I'm more of a gambler than a fighter.
But she's sarcastic all the time, and doesn't mind you using her as bait. Fletcher, on the other hand, isn't one to be used as bait. As far as he's concerned, everyone else is bait besides him.
Holy shit!
Chew on this!
Fletcher isn't as easy to recruit as Jessica is either. His companionship is quite costly.
I'll take 1,000 caps up front and 100 caps a day after that. I don't get paid on time, I'll walk. Clear?
He is worth the cost, as he carries an LMG and can take out a raider camp all on his own.
One little detail about Fletcher that I'm not sure how many people noticed is that when he dies, he drops a Nero servo, implying that he might be a synth. If I had my way, live-action Fletcher would absolutely be played by none other than Idris Elba.
However, if you'd like a more affordable companion that can still kick ass, unlike Fletcher, the half-man, half-machine, P.A.L 8000 is all-machine and will obey your every command.
This unit is ready to deploy.
To acquire this Assaultron-like companion, head to this abandoned factory warehouse near the Basin Creek building. Inside, you'll find the android, but it's in an unfinished state. You'll have to gather parts to activate it. And unlike any other companion, when the P.A.L 8000 collapses in combat, you'll have to go back to the factory and rebuild it from the ground up using his processor core.
Most people think P.A.L's name is just a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and the 8000 part certainly is. But the P.A.L part is actually a reference to a character in the underrated 2001 RPG Anachronox, made by Ion Storm.
These companion mods are a great example of how Tammer seamlessly injects his creations into the game in a lore-friendly way. Take Fletcher, for example. When you ask about his robotic arm, he mentions a high-tech crew he used to run with back east.
There's this outfit I used to run with back east. Real high-tech crew. They set me up proper. I asked for this. Why turn down the opportunity to become something more than human?
And of course, he's referring to the Institute. Jessica doesn't just so happen to be in Vault 21. She has a purpose there tying her into the game's world.
I'm the maintenance worker. Sarah may run the place, but I keep the place running.
Even the P.A.L 8000 has a piece of lore. This android was developed to rival the Robco Assaultron, but it was beaten to the market and lost the military contract, so the funding stopped, then the project was abandoned before the bombs fell. This way of adding modded content to the game is great, because the new weapons, armors, companions, and what have you are all connected to the game world in a cohesive manner, whether aesthetically or conceivably. This is what I believe modding is all about, building on top of what is already there and coming up with creations that remind you of why you fell in love with the game in the first place, not to fulfill some weird fantasy. Just because I enjoy Call of Duty doesn't mean I'd like to incorporate its features and content into my new Vegas. MC Tammer got so good at seamlessly integrating modded content to the game that even something as bizarre as the Nuka-Tron Assault still feels like it belongs in Fallout New Vegas.
This mod started out as nothing more than a silly screenshot I posted, showing a crudely made vending machine with tank treads shooting a bottle of Nuka-Cola at some unseen target. The reaction to it was so immediate and overwhelmingly positive that I decided to flesh it out into something that could be released.
This is a bite-sized quest mod that starts when you approach a fella perched on top of the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters building. He needs your assistance in fending off the Nuka-Trons from the factory.
Hey, you down there! Grab a weapon and get your ass up here! They're coming!
They are animated Nuka-Cola vending machines that shoot out Nuka-Cola bottles and spout advertising slogans.
Free bread in town.
Anyway, you basically play tower defense for 5 minutes, but the fun doesn't end there. If you possess the Robotics Expert perk, you can repair the Nuka-Trons to working condition and they'll become your slaves. They come in handy quite soon as the area surrounding the factory is littered with fiends. Up next is probably the most immaculate player home mod I've ever seen. Watch Station A.E.G.I.S is a space station that allows you travel between the capital and the Mojave Wastelands in TTW. It comes with an infirmary which includes an autodock, an armory that has within it a unique repairable armor, the recreation deck where you can purchase food and water, a dormitory for you to put on your pajamas and sleep, the drop bay from which you'll be able to travel across wastelands, an observation ring for you to gaze outside at the beauty of your home planet. You'll also notice that the space station is orbiting in space for that added immersion, and the dicking bay. Excuse me, I'm at the docking bay where you'll park your space shuttle.
I decided to start making this mod after discovering Tale of Two Wastelands. I wanted something that would let me travel between DC and the Mojave that was cooler than just an ordinary train. Starship Troopers is one of my favorite novels, so I decided to make something that would let me recreate a drop from orbit, like in the book.
To gain access to the space station from the Mojave, head over to the Nellis Air Force Base, keep walking northeast from the Nellis Array, and you'll come across this hidden bunker. To unlock the door, interact with this rock, hack the control panel and head on inside, where you'll have to take on some feral ghouls before you eventually get to the space shuttle. Open the control terminal, raise the elevator, leave the bunker and you'll find the shuttle outside. Go inside, take a seat, activate autopilot, and you'll arrive at the station where you'll be greeted by Holly.
Hello, Commander. Welcome aboard Watch Station A.E.G.I.S.
But I know that y'all are too lazy to go through all of that, so fortunately for you, there's a much simpler way of traveling to the space station. Somewhere near the old nuclear test site, you'll see a plume of black smoke. Head towards it, and you'll find a crashed drop pod where you'll acquire a retrieval beacon. Activate it, and it'll directly teleport you to the station. And now to fast travel to the DC Wasteland, head over to the drop bay, pick your location from the control terminal, put on your power armor, and get into a drop pod. And you'll be launched towards your desired location within the capital wasteland. Let's end this mod's showcase with MC Tammer's most novel creation, Vault 826. This vault's evil experiment is to see how much fun, peace and pleasure you can handle. It has a swimming pool, shopping mall, a honeymoon suite with a hot tub, cinema, cocktail lounge, diner, school, and arcade simulator. Seriously, somehow Tammer managed to invent a better vault than Bethesda ever could. This entire vault is designed in a very intricate way. Here, let me take you on a little tour of the vault's main entrance and you'll see what I mean. Right off the bat, you'll notice the vault doors and elevator just like Vault 111 in Fallout 4. But Tammer's vault entrance is housed within a bunker and that's a lot more practical than 111's elevator, which is exposed to the hazards of the wasteland. Upon your arrival at the first level, you'll notice you're being watched by the head of security through this window, and there are guards surrounding you on the railing. To go further into this floor, the only way is through decontamination to make sure you don't carry any radiation or wasteland residue with you inside. There will also be scientists and doctors in the observation room monitoring you just like vaults from the classics. So far, this is the most sensible vault entrance I've ever seen. And unlike most vaults in Fallout lore, Vault 826 is a democracy. It seems Tammer has taken everything into account when creating this.
I try to open this door to the women's washroom. My reputation with the faction decreases, since I'm being a creep.
And I wish I could go into more detail about the vaults, but due to how intricately crafted it is, that would take forever. Instead, I highly recommend you check out MC Tammer's video where he dives deeper into its features and design philosophies. While Vault 826 is still a work in progress, there is a small mod available called the Sniper Deduction Game, which is supposed to be a playable minigame from one of the arcade simulation pods within the vault.
This game is one that I have very creatively dubbed Sniper Deduction Game while looking for a better and more catchy name for it. It's basically a very violent version of Where's Waldo, except you don't know what Waldo looks like, and somebody has to describe him to you while you're trying to find him within a time limit. And every 15 seconds or so, you'll get a new clue as to the identity of the target. You can configure the game to your individual preference. If you want to make the game even more challenging, you can enable headshots only mode, which makes it so that only a precise shot to the head will kill the target, and anything less than that will fail the mission. We have what I call training wheels, which will periodically highlight the target in red using the same effect as Boone's spotter perk. So now let's see what happens if we miss and don't manage to hit anybody. In this case, the target gets spooked by the sound of the gunshot and manages to escape. The Hitman video game series looks so cool to me, but I know I don't have the patience to play it properly, so I just watch Let's Plays on YouTube instead. That influence on this mod is clear though, right down to the handler being a British lady.
And now, it's time for the Q&A section, where MC Tammer is going to answer some of your questions.
Welcome everyone to my Wasteland workshop. I'm ready to answer your questions that were submitted through Mutant Mods' YouTube community tab. This question comes from Satellaview64, and oh boy, here we go. Why did you stop uploading to Nexusmods? The answer is complicated. In the end, it boils down to corporate greed, but basically it's because Nexusmods changed their terms of service to essentially say, anything that's been uploaded to our servers is ours to do with as we please, and if you don't like that, don't use our platform. So I decided, fine, I won't use your platform then. They're violating the community spirit in which these mods are made, and I don't like that. Nexusmods is profiting off of the work that we mod authors do for free because we love the game. I also didn't like not being given the choice to opt out of their scheme, because I make mods for the joy of making mods, not because I want to be compensated for my work. I never opted into the donation point system. I always turn down paid commissions. I don't have a Patreon. And whenever someone offers to donate money to support me, I always tell them, thank you, but if you can, please donate it to support Ukraine instead. I'm not out to make money doing what I do, but that doesn't mean I want other people to make money off of me. So that's why I left. These days, I run my own website where all my mods are hosted. I still update pretty regularly, so if you like, you can check it out at fallout.firedrakecreative.com or click the link in the description. Warcrimes TV wants to know, how do you feel about the Fallout community's demand for mods and the expectations it places on mod authors? I try to insulate myself from that as much as possible. I notoriously refuse to take requests, and I actively discourage people from sending me ideas or suggestions precisely for this reason. I make the things that I want to make and that I'm passionate about, and that way I'm not answerable to anybody but myself. If other people like it too, that's great, but if not, it's not my problem. There are people out there who, even after you fill the request for them, will complain, no, that's not what I meant, you did it wrong, and I just don't want to have to deal with that. So I do everything I can to keep to myself. That way I can retain 100% of my creative freedom, because if you're making something that you aren't totally passionate about, what's even the point, right? Jimmy Jangy asks, what inspired you to start making mods, and what is your main discouragement? As for my main discouragement, I think I speak for a lot of mod authors when I say it's having to deal with entitled, ungrateful people who don't seem to appreciate the fact that mod authors are unpaid volunteers who chose to share their work with the community. The kind of people who leave comments like, your mod broke my game, so you'd better help me fix it right now. Or, this aspect of your mod is wrong because it doesn't jive with how I think it should work. Change it. Or, your mods have been absolute garbage lately. Why can't you go back to making cool stuff like you used to? And it's like, dude, I've already gone above and beyond by making the mod in the first place, and then again by allowing you to use it. I don't owe you anything. Fortunately, people like this are rare compared to those who are appreciative and supportive, but just dealing with one entitled prick is enough to sap my creative energy. I started making mods because I didn't like the texture on the handguard of the Chinese assault rifle in Fallout 3. It's this ugly, bleached wood color that I just couldn't stand, so I wanted to change it. I thought it would be as simple as editing a texture, but soon found myself having to learn about extracting files from BSAs, editing file paths in NIF-Scope, and all this other stuff. I realized that I could use these skills to make my own ridiculously overpowered weapons. The first weapon mod I ever made was an assault rifle edit, where I added a maximum zoom scope and changed it to fire 308 rounds, easily able to one-shot Deathclaws and Vertibirds. From those simple stat edits, I started experimenting with making unique meshes for them, and it snowballed from there, eventually arriving at where we are today. The question that was asked by multiple people: where do you get your inspiration from? My main source of inspiration is stuff I see in movies, in video games, on TV, or on YouTube. I find guns mechanically interesting. I watch a lot of programming about them. Sometimes I'll see something that I think is cool, and I'll try to recreate it in the game. In terms of armor, it's very much the same. I have an unofficial series of armors that I call my cool outfits from mediocre movies line, since I love cheesy and terrible movies, especially the ones from the 80s and 90s, which despite their terrible plots and acting, often have cool looking outfits. Rocky S. Roger wants to know, what is your design process? My process begins with gathering reference photos. I'll find as many high-resolution shots as I can from as many angles as possible. I then study their shapes and look for pieces from the game that I could use to recreate the most distinctive features. I find it's easier to go piece by piece instead of trying to recreate the whole gun in one go, because otherwise you get overwhelmed. I'll just focus on recreating the grip or the front sight instead of trying to find a shape to match the entire receiver of the gun, for example. I'll ask myself whether those shapes can be broken down into multiple smaller shapes, which makes it easier to find pieces that could match. Once I've got the key features made, I'll fill in the remaining gaps one by one using the same process of breaking them down into smaller shapes until I end up with a finished gun. Once I'm ready to import the gun into the game, I'll usually consult Wikipedia or the Internet Movie Firearms database to get an idea of what its real-world properties and capabilities are. Then I'll do my best to interpret those into the stats relevant to the game. Omega Neo wants to know, do you own any real guns that you've based mods on? Before I answer this, if anyone from the government is watching, I want to make it very clear that no, I don't own any guns. Not a single one, no sir. Please don't raid my house. That being said, I do have a lot of airsoft replicas, all of which have been made into mods in one form or another. In particular, the payload rifle, enhanced battle rifle, and mini machine pistol are all directly based off of airsoft replicas that I own, as are several of the uniques, such as the Wolverine and the Hammer of the People. Pianto asks, why don't you use third-party extensions like NVSE? This is just in case I ever get zapped back in time to 2008, before any of those third-party tools were available. I want my mods to still work. Yeah, that way I could release them earlier and become famous while the game is still widely relevant. No, the serious answer is twofold, with the first reason being a practical one. I want my mods to remain accessible to as many people as possible. Every added dependency is an additional barrier to entry. It doesn't help that New Vegas is already a precariously balanced house of cards, and the more you pile on top of it, the greater the chances of cascading failure. Ideally, all my mods would be plug and play without the need to tweak any configuration settings or install any additional tools. The second reason is an artistic one. I'm a firm believer that limits inspire creativity. When anything is possible, you're not going to take the time to examine things from every angle to explore all the other possibilities. Take movies, for example. If you have an unlimited budget and carte blanche to do whatever you want, you're not going to take risks or think laterally, and the end product is going to be something safe, bland, and homogeneous. Look at the Marvel movies and how each one has to have that obligatory CGI slugfest in the third act. Why? Because those set pieces were in development long before even a single frame of the movie has been shot. So they're locked into that ending. There's no wiggle room to incorporate happy onset accidents or last minute flashes of inspiration. Now, compare that to a filmmaker who has to pinch every penny and milk every last ounce of value out of whatever limited resources they have. In those cases, you need to get creative in your problem solving because you can't just brute force it by throwing money its way. Like during the production of Jaws, where a malfunctioning mechanical shark forced Spielberg to film most of the shark scenes from the shark's point of view, which made for a more tense experience and ultimately a better movie. So, long story short, I find it more fun, challenging, and creatively engaging to discover unexpected workarounds or think up new effects if what I wanted to do originally isn't possible in the vanilla engine. Our next question comes from Amazingly Muggy, who wants to know, are there any weapons or armors that have given you lots of trouble to make? The things that have given me the most trouble are ones that have never been released because I still haven't figured them out yet. Of the things that have been released, I'd say the one that took the longest was the Proletariat Assault Rifle, my AK-47 analog. The AK has such a distinctive silhouette that it's important to get it right, and there aren't a lot of base game meshes that come close. This is where that process I was talking about earlier of breaking it down into smaller pieces really helped to get it made. Mateus Christian asks, how do you handle gameplay balance for your weapons and armors? I'm not overly concerned with gameplay balance for the most part because I don't have the patience to sit down and hash it out. But one thing I do to take care of it automatically is to find a base game weapon or armor that fits within the same tier or category as the one I'm making. Then I'll base the stats for my object around the base game object stats and add mine to the same leveled lists as the object I'm copying. That way the distribution remains somewhat fair without me having to put in a lot of time and effort. Nice Meme wants to know, how complete do you think the Mega Pack is percentage-wise? I'd say that the Mega Pack permanently sits at around 90% complete. There's always more that could be added, and as long as I have ideas and a computer that can run the GEC, I'm going to keep adding stuff. But if I were to stop here, I think it's still a pretty decent mod in its current state. Well, that's all we have time for today. Huge thanks to Mutant Mods for putting this video together and inviting me to be a part of it, letting me feel like a celebrity for a day. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I'm active on social media. You can find links to all my socials on my website at fallout.firedrakecreative.com. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
YouTube never changes. Smash like and subscribe.